So the year is 2019, and this guy, Aussie Wind, comes on to the magic show Fool Us, a TV competition program in which the world's most talented magicians come to try and fool two juggernauts in the magic world, Penn and Teller. And what he did next shocked everyone. Now, why would I bet that you've never seen it? Well, I myself am a magician. I've been learning and performing magic for 20 years, and yet I only just found out about this performance this year. I guess this is just what happens these days. Even though we're more connected than ever on the internet, there's also so much happening, so much content, so much being shared that we can often miss out on something truly special. So I'm grateful for a couple magicians in my community sharing this with me. Thank you guys, you know who you are. But this trick was mind-blowing, and I'd just like to explain to you why, and hopefully expose you to this magician and his performance if you haven't seen him before. But also, I think this is where we have something to learn. Not just me and not just fellow magicians, but anyone who is a communicator in any field. If you give presentations, if you're a writer, a student, or even if you just have to lead a work meeting every now and then, it's works of art like this that distill some key principles of communication we should all know. So let's get into it.
I'm going to show you a trick and explain exactly how it's done. So Penn? Yes? I need you to choose a person we can trust.
First, Aussie immediately tells us something perhaps a little surprising. He tells us he's going to explain the trick. Now, some magicians say they'll do this in their presentations, but then they don't actually satisfy that promise. They just kind of use it as a teaser. But we don't know yet where he's going to take this. Regardless, it creates intrigue. But before we can see the explanation, we have to see the trick. And all the while, we're interested now because we know we apparently will get to see how it's done. And the trick he does itself is very impressive. In fact, those words undersell it. As a magician, my gears were turning, trying to think of all the possible methods it could have used, but I was coming up empty, as the way in which Aussie does this trick shows that none of my solutions could have been possible. So here's the sequence of events. Aussie has Penn pick a truly random audience member, and as a complete aside, I love that we get to see Penn as Santa here. It was a holiday episode. Aussie then guides the participant to think of a card in his head, narrowing down the options as he goes through them. There's some good banter here, acting like, oh, maybe a different choice. He takes this whole break to sip his water and give the guy time to change, but of course he doesn't, and he chooses the King of Spades. Okay. But then, as Aussie gives him one last chance to change his mind, the guy does this time.
And you have different suit? What suit do you want?
King of clubs.
King of clubs? Twist in this dramatic. Okay, twist.
This makes the whole thing feel really fair. You know, not only did he let him stay when he wanted, but he let him change his mind when he wanted. All right. And a true showman, he has some great banter and commentary for that moment too. When Aussie goes to a deck of cards that is inside a box, he goes to reveal that the card is turned over in the deck. And that's impressive, but if you're a magician, you're not too impressed yet. You'll know ways he might have done this. But he then goes to show that it's a different colored card, and then that it's the only printed card in a blank deck. And without saying too much, it's the way he is handling these cards that then will really floor you if you're a magician. And to really settle that fact, he immediately gives the cards to Penn and Teller.
No, you love to examine cards, so these are for you. Happy holidays. Enjoy. Enjoy yourself.
Now, there's a few things that emphasize our first principle to take away here. One I haven't even mentioned yet. It's the blueprint in the background. You might think, what is that? Is it just generic? You know, the idea of intricacies? It's this like large background, so you can't go through a single shot of Aussie without seeing it back there. It also re-emphasizes the promise. And it's that promise that is in the back of our minds the whole time. Not only is this an amazing trick, but maybe he was telling the truth when he said that we would get to see it explained. And last, it's the trick itself, the fooling nature of it, and the fact that it is, as far as I'm concerned, a magician fooler too. It was all over for me when he handed those cards to Penn and Teller. And what do all of these decisions create? They create one of the strongest feelings that all of the best magicians, storytellers, and communicators in general use: intrigue. Use intrigue in your communication in order to be effective. Set up a promise or set up something that needs to be fulfilled. This is embedded so far into our psychology that we even see it in the art of music. Musicians create melodies with notes that are off of the chord that don't feel satisfying. Then they come back onto the chord to create a feeling of resolution. This is in our psyche. We love intrigue as long as it gets satisfied, but intrigue gets the attention. So how can you use it? Well, you might want to do it the way Aussie does, make a promise at the beginning of your presentation or meeting or book, whatever it may be. Make a promise that you're going to be able to deliver on. Or maybe you ask a question that many other people wonder about too. This is what a lot of successful YouTube videos do. They pose a specific question, and then over the course of the video, they seek to answer it.
I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
Start with intrigue. Now, how does this great trick get even better? Well, Aussie then delivers on his promise. He gives us the explanation. And we come to realize this whole time that the backdrop represented a schematic of his secret. Incredible. A lot of the comments on the YouTube video are mind blown this fact, how it was just such a bold move for him to do. Aussie shows us this impressive round table contraption that delivers him the deck he needs. That moment he was sipping his mug, that was part of the contraption too. Everyone likes being able to peek behind the curtain. Many magicians have begun to figure out entertaining ways that they can let the audience in a little bit on their secrets while still impressing them in the end. A classic example is the silk to egg trick. The performer seems to magically turn a silk into an egg, but then he proceeds to reveal it. He shows that he uses a hollow egg that he pushes the silk into and then reveals. In modern times, Penn and Teller themselves have often integrated explanations of secrets into their acts in order to entertain the audience and impress them even further when they do something that either defies these expectations or they're able to do the secrets so impressively that the entertainment comes from their skill as opposed to being fooled. Now, this is a controversial choice for many magicians. The question is always, what's okay to reveal and not to reveal? That's a legitimate concern, maybe for another day, another conversation. But regardless, if you find something that you can let people in on a little, it can have great impact. People actually like learning things, believe it or not. We like learning if it's interesting. So you can apply this to any craft, not just magic. If you're a presenter and you're able to make what you need to teach intriguing, like the first step said, you can then explain some of its intricacies, and people will be following right along with you because of the way you were able to hook them with step one. This is why these principles build. We've started with intrigue, something that prompts a question of how, or I want to know, and then we answer the question. Now, the great part of this is that Aussie doesn't just deliver on the promise, but he also says something with it. He has something meaningful to attach to the entertainment and the presentation. And I believe that we all have something to say.
Why should I waste my time listening?
Because I have a right to be, and I have a voice!
Yes, you do.
He explains how he wanted to give people this experience, that kind of understanding of what it's like to lose the mystery, because that's the sacrifice that a magician makes. So the entertainment he's delivering is a vehicle on which his deeper message can be delivered. But how does he drive that message home? Well, that brings us to part 3.
I wanted you to feel for a brief moment what it's like to be on my side of magic. For a brief moment to enjoy the part that I find beautiful. But I did not want you to pay the price I paid. I made a choice. I chose to learn the secrets, and I can't make that choice for you. That's why I told you at the very beginning that everything on stage is a part of the illusion. Nothing is innocent. Nothing is as it seems.
Aussie explains that he didn't want to take away the mystery from people when they hadn't made that choice for themselves. He just wanted to give them that feeling so that they would understand. They'd understand the sacrifice that a magician makes. Remember that silk to egg trick I mentioned? The end of the trick is that the performer actually cracks his egg and pours it into a glass, revealing that the explanation was itself just a trick too. Aussie Wind has done the same idea on a grander scale and with a meaning, that there is a price to pay in order to pursue a craft like magic, but that those who pay that price can then deliver that exhilaration of mystery to others. This moment is the twist. It's surprise. As magician Joshua Jay found in his psychological studies on magic, surprise is really the core feature of a magic trick. We don't just like seeing something impossible. A trick really satisfies us when it surprises us. As Penn said at the end, not only could they not guess the method, they couldn't even predict where the plot was going. Once again, we see this all throughout art and storytelling mediums, the rule of three in comedy. You set up and escalate a pattern, and then you subvert the pattern. That subversion is the period. It's the exclamation point. It's the punctuation mark that lets you know this is finished, it's complete. And that refreshes you. It kind of lets you relax into the full story that you've just experienced. You might even say it releases you because it rounds out the whole thing. Now, surprises can elevate any moment in a presentation or show or magic trick, but a good ending surprise is what we would call the inevitable surprise, and we get this from story writing principles. It's one that reveals what's been there the whole time, how everything was intentional and fits together. So it might sound cheesy, but here's an example. What if you made your main points in a presentation form an acronym? That's pretty common, people do it all the time, but everybody tells you the acronym at the beginning. I get that because it's a mnemonic device, makes sense. But what if you didn't tell anyone that there was an acronym at all? You made your main points, and then at the end, you reveal the mnemonic, you reveal the acronym that it all forms together. Not only does it serve your audience because it makes the main points easier to remember, but it's a nice little surprise, right? They get to see everything come together. Intrigue, explanation, and twist. It's the secret sauce to make anything you do as compelling as a good magic trick. And of course, once you've delivered what people came for, don't overstay your welcome with a long drawn out ending.